All right, Shalom. All praise and glory and honor goes to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakak Wadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of great millstone. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. This is another edition of GMS News and Prophecy. I have an article here from Express. And this headline, EU facing civil war. France admits budget black hole over Macron's protests cave in. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire confirmed France would exceed the European Union's budget deficit ceiling next year after President Emmanuel Macron gave in to anti-government street protests. Okay. Now, if you've been keeping up with the news on the EU and France and what's been going on in Paris, there's been a series of protests going on, known as the Yellow Vest protests, because the government is basically coming down with more heavy taxes on the people. So now you have the workers protesting against the government. All these things are prophetic, because the scriptures talk about uproars of the people, and the fact that these people are going to start standing against the governors and rulers and the law enforcement in these different lands and countries. Okay, we are in the end of the so-called white man society, which is Esau in the Bible. We are at the end of his rulership. Okay, and we are at the end of his people's rulership, which are the Edomites. This earth, the way that society and the way things are set up, all these things were put upon you through deceit by the Edomites, the so-called white man, and his power structure. And now that power structure is failing. Over here in Europe, you have different countries coming against each other. Different European governments and financial institutions breaking down, and that's all prophetic of what the Lord prophesied was to happen in the last days. Okay, so let me go ahead and get the prophecy, which is from Daniel, the second chapter, Daniel chapter 2. And this goes into the famous dream that Nebuchadnezzar had of a statue of gold, silver, bronze, and clay. All right, now this is Daniel chapter 2. And okay, I'll start at verse 36. It says, "This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king." The king is Nebuchadnezzar from ancient Babylon, or what they call Sumer or Samaria. All right. It says, "Thou, O king, art a king of kings." And this is secular world history. He was an actual man that ruled over this place. All right, Babylon. It says, "For the power of heaven have given thee." So the power of the heavens, which is Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, which is the actual power of Israel. He's the one that has given Nebuchadnezzar his kingdom. And he's also the same one, the same being, the same spirit, the same creator that gave all the other heathen, and especially the so-called white man, his kingdom. Okay, it's given. All right. It says, "For the power of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold." All right, so he had a dream of a statue of a man with the head of gold, arms of silver, thighs of brass, and feet of clay. Okay. But all these rulers, all these kingdoms, they all have the power over all the animals and the men on the earth. All right, but it started with here, ancient Babylon, ruled by Nebuchadnezzar. All right, verse 39, "And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth." So you had a kingdom of silver and a kingdom of brass. Okay. It says, "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. That was talking about the pagan Roman Empire. All right, what you know is Greco-Rome, and the Caesars with Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar. All right, it's talking about that Rome. That was the fourth kingdom, and the strength of the fourth kingdom, as it was like unto iron. All right, but verse 41 says this, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron. Now right, because you had legs of clay. Excuse me. Earlier I said feet of clay, legs of clay, but you also have the feet of it, which is the foundation. All right, what's holding all these kingdoms up. All right, it was mixed with iron and mixed with clay. So it says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. That's talking about your modern day NATO and European Union. Those are the 10 toes. And they are partly strong as iron. They are partly strong because in this society, strength is really based upon money. If you got money, you're strong. No matter what laws or guns or weapons you have, if you got money, you can hire someone to make weapons. If you got money, you can buy someone out. So they're partly strong, and it also does go into the military might. It is the military might, especially with dealing with America. Okay, but the reason why the American military is strong is because there's a lot of money being put into it. All right, so it's as strong as iron, but it's also going to be as weak as clay because you have certain other countries in the EU. All right, which I'm going to get into the article, which France. All right, I believe is a strong country. England is a strong country with the UK. But then you got weak countries like Greece and Portugal. All right, they're like the clay. So this union in this modern day time, this union is mixing together like clay and iron. All right, it says, verse 42, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Okay. Verse 43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. All right, and it is a thing of men for them to come together. It says, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron does not mix with clay. All right, and ultimately, when they do try to cleave together in their new world order, these Edomites are not going to achieve that new world order. Okay. So that was the prophetic background of what you're seeing here, because these protesters, all right, are tax. Well, matter of fact, let me go in there and read it. It says the French government has been forced to cave in to the demands of yellow vest protesters, who were calling for tax cuts and income increases amid rising living costs. Mr. Lemaire told MPs, with the additional expenses, we are going to overshoot the 3% of gross domestic product limit and want to take every necessary measure to keep us as close as possible to 3% and to our European commitments. We will take measures designed to curb public spending and increase tax receipts. The latter can be done by specifically asking big companies to contribute. I'm in favor. All right. It says, so it basically goes into the financial struggle that France and other countries are going through. Okay. Let's see. It says France has been falling since Macron took office. So we're really basically in the time of the end of Europe, which spells the end of America. Because once certain countries in Europe goes, that's it for the United States. Okay? It basically goes into how France is stuck in a bind and debt. But guess what? The only way out of that debt is war. That's how the elites of these white people have always, run things. Okay, through war. Are your countries poor? Okay, well help us, and we'll build your economy. Your economy will be built, and then you can survive. You know. But like I said, these protests and this whole breakup of Europe, it says EU facing civil war, and that's what the presence of these protesters. But it says France admits budget black hole over Macron's protests cave in, because the fact these protests are happening, that's messing up money. All right, for business, man. And if France can contribute to the business of the EU, then it's going to be considered weak. Okay. So let me do this. Let me go to some more scriptures. Let's get a matter of fact, because we're dealing with the protest. So let me get in the Apocrypha, 2 Ezra, the 15th chapter. Okay, 2 Ezra, chapter 15. Let's see. Verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the courses of their actions shall stand in their power. And what's going on in France is just a small component of what's to come. The same thing that's really going on around the world is really smaller what's to come. You know what I'm saying? It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor princes. That's why these yellow vest protesters can go against the government. And then it says Macron gave in to the protesters. All right. It says, and the courses of their actions shall stand in their power. All right. So it's making France look weak. All right. And eventually they're going to be behind the war of Armageddon. Okay, behind going to war. And America's definitely going to spearhead that thing. All right. So this is what's going on now. All right. This is what we're seeing going on now. Okay. Matter of fact, let me, if I can play some of this video. Close this. All right. You can see it here. Everybody's basically, attacking the cops. The cops dragging one yellow vest protester off, because this says that the course of the actions stand in their own power. So this is what you see. Okay. All right. Now is it on that? So what we're seeing is sedition among men. All right, and Yahweh Shai himself said that these things were going to spell the end of this society. All right. Let's go to Luke chapter 21. Luke chapter 21. Let's see. Yep, Luke 21 and 25. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars. All right, you got heavenly signs going on in the sky, eclipses, new moons, and mainly like eclipses, shooting stars or whatever, meteor showers. These things are signs of the Lord. They happen a lot more frequently too, on a lot larger scale. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations. We're seeing the distress of nations right now with France, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts filling them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud, which is the so-called UFO or chariot, all right, with power and great glory. All right, so we're going to see soon Yahweh Shai being the Savior, the Son, He's going to come back soon. All right, all right, in His glory. And all these protests and these things that's happening around the world, these things are signs of that coming. You know. But with that, I'm going to end it there. Who I was edified. We give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashmi Yahweh Shai, Basham Kakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone. And shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the elect. Hey, shalom.